I've always felt out of place in my hometown. It's a quaint and quiet place where the tallest building was the steeple of the old church at the town square. People here live by the church's bells, its chimes dictating their daily routines. I was never like them. My name is Aaron, and while I grew up in the shadow of that steeple, my mind wandered to places far beyond its reach. From a young age, I found solace in books, particularly those about theology and ancient religions. My curiosity was insatiable, leading me to question the blind faith that seemed to envelop the town. It wasn't that I didn't believe, it was that I wanted to understand what I believed in. But in this town, questions were often met with disapproving glances rather than answers. One afternoon, as the autumn leaves danced to the ground, I stumbled upon a dusty old bookstore tucked away in an alley. It was as if the store had been waiting for me, hidden from the world. Inside, amidst the musty smell of aged paper, my eyes caught a peculiar title. Gnostic Truths. The Hidden God. Intrigued, I skimmed through the pages. The book spoke of ancient Gnostic beliefs, of a malevolent deity named the Demiurge, who masqueraded as a benevolent god. This was unlike anything I had ever read or been taught. That evening, as I sat in my room, the book opened on my lap, a strange unease settled over me. The Gnostics believed that the Demiurge sought to keep humanity ignorant of their true divine nature and potential. The more I read, the more I felt a disconcerting resonance with the text. The unquestioning devotion of the townsfolk, the almost fervent adherence to religious rituals. Could there be a hidden truth, a sinister deception woven into the fabric of our beliefs? I decided to share my findings with Sarah, my childhood friend. She was deeply religious, her faith unwavering, yet she had always respected my quest for understanding. I remember her skeptical raise of an eyebrow when I first mentioned the Demiurge. "Aaron, you don't actually believe this, do you?" she asked, her voice tinged with a mix of concern and curiosity. "It's not about belief, Sarah," I replied. "It's about understanding what lies beneath what we're told to believe." Little did I know, this conversation would be the first step into a journey that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my town, my faith, and the very nature of reality itself. As autumn waned into a bleak winter, my fascination with the Gnostic texts deepened. The notion of the Demiurge, an entity orchestrating a grand deception, consumed my thoughts. I could no longer look at the church, the town, or its people the same way. There was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a whisper that perhaps we were all pawns in a celestial game of control. Sarah, initially skeptical, began to share in my curiosity. Together, we pored over ancient texts and debated late into the night. The more we delved, the more the world around us seemed to warp. People's behavior started to feel orchestrated, as if each prayer and each sermon was a thread in a larger, unseen tapestry. One evening, Sarah arrived at my house, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. She had found a hidden chapter in one of the Gnostic manuscripts we'd been studying. It was a cryptic text, speaking of a ritual that the Demiurge's followers performed to maintain its grip on the world. As we tried to decipher the text, we couldn't help but draw parallels to some of the town's strange traditions, rituals we had grown up with and never questioned. The annual festival of lights, the oddly timed town curfew, the peculiar chants that drifted from the church late at night, it all started to form a sinister pattern. The deeper we dug, the more unsettling things became. Our once peaceful town now felt like a facade, with each smiling face hiding a darker truth. We started noticing symbols and signs that had always been there, yet we had never truly seen symbols that matched those associated with the Demiurge in the Gnostic texts. It was during one of our late-night research sessions that we stumbled upon a revelation that chilled us to our bones. The town's founding members, it seemed, were not just devout Christians, but were part of a sect that believed in the supremacy of the Demiurge. Could it be that our town was founded on these hidden beliefs? We needed to know more. Our research turned into an investigation. We started following the town's elders, hoping to catch them in some act that would confirm our suspicions. What we found was more horrifying than we could have imagined. It wasn't just the elders, it seemed like everyone in town was involved in something beyond normal understanding. One night, we trailed the town's priest to a secluded part of the woods. Hidden among the trees, we watched in horror as a group of townsfolk, including people we had known all our lives, gathered in a clearing. They began a chant, eerie and dissonant, that resonated with a frequency that seemed to claw at the very fabric of reality. As they chanted, the air grew thick, and a palpable sense of dread settled over the woods. We realized then that we were not just uncovering hidden truths, we were peering into an abyss that threatened to swallow us whole. The nights grew longer, and so did our list of unexplainable occurrences. Sarah and I spent every waking moment trying to piece together the puzzle, our lives consumed by the hidden darkness of our town. It started with minor oddities, shadows that seemed to linger longer than they should, cold spots in rooms that were otherwise warm, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. The townspeople, once familiar and friendly, now seemed distant and guarded. Their eyes held a glint of something unrecognizable, as if they were privy to a secret that Sarah and I were desperately trying to uncover. One particularly chilling discovery was a series of old photographs in the town hall archives. They showed the founding members of the town in front of the church, their faces expressionless, their eyes hollow. In each photo, a symbol was present the same we had seen associated with the Demiurge. It was as though the very foundation of our town was tainted by this malevolent force. Our research revealed more about the Demiurge, a being that thrived on ignorance and fear, keeping its subjects in a state of blind obedience. It was said to manifest physically only when its control was absolute. Sarah and I feared that our town was becoming such a place. The more we learned, the more we felt a sense of urgency. We had to expose the truth, to break the town free from the Demiurge's grasp. But the task seemed monumental, almost impossible. It was then that we learned about a secret group within the town. Whispers of their existence had always been there, but now we saw them in a new light. They were not just a social elite, they were the keepers of the town's dark secret. We started to see patterns in their behavior, meetings held in secret locations, and strange deliveries made to the church. We needed to infiltrate one of these meetings, to find undeniable proof of what was happening. Our opportunity came one cold, moonless night. We followed a group of the town's elite to an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Concealed in the shadows, we watched as they filed inside, their faces grim and purposeful. Creeping closer, we found a vantage point where we could see and hear what was happening inside. The room was lit by candles, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The group began a ritual, speaking in a language that was ancient and unrecognizable. At the center of the room was a symbol, a geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. As the ritual progressed, the air grew heavier, and a sense of dread filled the room. The symbol on the floor started to glow, a sickly light that seemed to seep into the very air we breathed. It was then that we heard it, a sound that was not of this world, a deep resonant hum that vibrated through our bodies. Sarah and I exchanged a look of horror. We had found our proof, but at what cost? We were witnessing a ritual that we feared could bring the Demiurge into our world. We had to stop it, but how? We were powerless against the forces at play. It was then that the unthinkable happened. The symbol on the floor erupted in a blinding light, and a figure began to emerge from within it. It was a manifestation of the Demiurge, a being of pure malevolence that defied description. Its presence filled the room with a suffocating darkness, and we knew that we had to flee before we were consumed by it. We ran from the farmhouse, the sounds of the ritual echoing in our ears. The night air felt thick and oppressive, as if the very essence of the Demiurge was seeping into the world around us. We had seen the face of true evil, and our town was its sanctuary. The days following our harrowing encounter at the farmhouse were a blur of fear and desperation. The town, once a place of comfort and familiarity, now felt like a trap, closing in around us with each passing moment. The manifestation of the Demiurge we had witnessed was not just a sign of the town's corruption, but a harbinger of a darker reality seeping into our world. Sarah and I knew we couldn't just leave. We had to find a way to counteract the influence of the Demiurge. Our research became more frantic, delving deeper into the Gnostic texts, searching for any clue on how to weaken its hold on the town. As we dug deeper, we discovered a forgotten ritual, one that claimed to be able to seal away the influence of the Demiurge. The ritual required an object of pure faith, something untainted by the Demiurge's deception. We realized that the old church, the centerpiece of the town's faith, might hold such an object. Our plan was to infiltrate the church under the cover of night, find the object, and perform the ritual. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. The night we chose was still and silent, the stars hidden behind a veil of clouds. We made our way to the church, our hearts pounding in our chests. The church was dark, its usual welcoming glow extinguished. We slipped inside, our flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air was heavy, charged with an unseen energy. We made our way to the altar, where we found a small, unassuming wooden cross. It felt warm to the touch, a stark contrast to the cold stone of the church. This had to be it, the object of pure faith. We began the ritual, reciting the ancient incantations, our voices echoing in the hollow church. As we spoke the words, a wind began to swirl around us, the air growing colder with each passing second. The cross in our hands began to glow, a soft light that grew brighter and brighter. Then, everything changed. A deafening roar filled the church, and the ground shook beneath our feet. From the shadows, a figure emerged, the Demiurge, its form more terrifying than before. It was a twisted, malevolent entity, its eyes burning with hatred. The ritual was working, but it was also drawing the Demiurge to us. We continued the incantations, our voices barely audible over the roar of the creature. The Demiurge advanced, its form shifting and changing, a nightmare made flesh. In a moment of terror, I looked at Sarah, her face set in determination. But then, in a flash of light and a scream that tore through the night, she was gone, pulled into the swirling darkness by the Demiurge. The creature turned its gaze to me, its eyes a void that threatened to swallow me whole. I felt its hatred, its desire to destroy everything we had tried to accomplish. But in that moment, a surge of strength welled up within me, fueled by the loss of Sarah and the need to finish what we had started. With the final cry, I completed the ritual, the words resonating with a power that I could not understand. The cross erupted in a blinding light, enveloping the Demiurge. The creature let out an otherworldly scream as it was pulled back into the darkness from which it had come. The church fell silent, the only sound my ragged breathing. The Demiurge was gone, but so was Sarah. I was alone, surrounded by the remnants of the ritual and the echoes of a battle between forces beyond comprehension. The town would never know what happened that night, but I knew that the fight was far from over. The Demiurge had been sealed away, but it was still out there, waiting. And I had to find Sarah, wherever she might be. In the aftermath of the ritual, our town seemed to awaken from a long slumber. The oppressive air lifted, and the townspeople appeared to be free from the unseen influence that had held them captive. However, the town I once knew felt irrevocably changed. The streets were quieter, the smiles of passers-by more tentative, as if everyone sensed that something fundamental had shifted. I was haunted by Sarah's disappearance. Her absence was a constant ache, a reminder of the cost of our meddling with forces we barely understood. I couldn't shake the image of her being consumed by the darkness, her final scream echoing in my ears. Determined to find her, I delved deeper into the Gnostic texts and other arcane materials, searching for any clue that could lead me to her. I was driven by a singular purpose to rescue Sarah from whatever fate had befallen her. My search led me to ancient rituals and theories of other dimensions, realms beyond our understanding. The text spoke of gateways and crossings, of ways to traverse these unseen worlds. I realized that if Sarah had been taken by the Demiurge, she might be trapped in one of these realms. I prepared for a journey unlike any other, gathering materials and knowledge that I hoped would allow me to navigate these unknown planes. Each night, I experimented with minor rituals, testing the boundaries of reality, feeling it bend and warp under the power of the incantations. But as I delved further into this esoteric world, strange occurrences began to manifest. Objects in my house moved on their own, shadows flickered in the corners of my vision, and whispers filled the night air, just beyond the edge of hearing. It was as if my actions were drawing the attention of things best left undisturbed. Despite the growing dread, I pressed on, driven by the memory of Sarah and the need to bring her back. Finally, I believed I was ready. I set up in the ruins of the old farmhouse where we had first encountered the Demiurge. The place felt tainted, but it was a connection to the entity and, I hoped, to Sarah. I began the ritual under the light of a new moon, the darkness around me almost suffocating. I recited the incantations, each word resonating with power. The air shimmered, reality bending and twisting. Then, with a final word, the world went silent. Before me, a rift opened, a tear in the very fabric of existence. It was a gateway, dark and foreboding, an entrance to the unknown. Taking a deep breath, I stepped through, into the abyss, leaving the world I knew behind. The journey was indescribable, a passage through realms of shadow and light, of realities twisted and turned inside out. Time lost meaning, and I was adrift in a sea of the impossible. Finally, I emerged into a realm that was both beautiful and terrifying. It was a world of twilight, of ethereal landscapes that defied physics and reason. And there, in the distance, I saw her Sarah, standing on the edge of an abyss, looking out into the void. The joy of seeing her again was tempered by the realization of where we were on the threshold of the Demiurge's domain. The battle to bring Sarah back was just beginning. The realm I had entered was a tapestry of nightmares and wonders, a place where the laws of nature held no sway. Sarah stood at the edge of a chasm that pulsed with a dark energy, her gaze fixed on the swirling abyss below. As I approached, she turned, and in her eyes, I saw a mixture of fear and relief. "Aaron," she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "You came for me." I reached out to her, and our hands clasped, a tangible connection in this intangible world. "I had to find you," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos around us. We knew we had little time. The Demiurge's presence loomed over this realm, a shadow that threatened to engulf everything. We had to find our way back, to escape this place before we were trapped here forever. Guided by the fragments of knowledge I had gathered, we navigated the twisted landscape, dodging shifting terrains and avoiding the gaze of the strange beings that inhabited this realm. The world around us was a reflection of the Demiurge's mind, a labyrinth of deception and madness. As we moved, the reality seemed to warp around us, the Demiurge's influence trying to disorient and ensnare us. We clung to each other, an anchor in this storm of unreality. The bond we shared, forged in our fight against the darkness, was our only beacon of hope. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we found it a rift, a tear in the fabric of this realm, leading back to our world. It shimmered with the same energy as the gateway I had opened, but it was unstable, flickering like a dying flame. We rushed towards the rift, the sounds of the Demiurge's minions close behind us. As we reached the edge of the rift, a sense of dread washed over us. We were on the threshold, but something was wrong. The rift was closing, the energy dissipating. In a desperate bid, I channeled every ounce of my will, reciting incantations to stabilize the rift. Sarah joined in, her voice blending with mine, a symphony of defiance against the dark forces that sought to keep us. With the final surge of energy, the rift stabilized, a doorway back to our world. We leaped through, the sounds of the otherworldly realm fading into silence. We emerged back into the ruins of the old farmhouse, the night sky above us calm and serene. We were back, but the world we returned to felt different, tainted by the knowledge of what lay beyond. In the days that followed, Sarah and I shared our story with no one. We knew they would not understand, could not comprehend the truth of what we had experienced. Our town had returned to normal, but the scars of our journey ran deep. We were changed, haunted by the memories of the other realm, and the ever-present threat of the Demiurge. But we had each other, and in that, we found solace. The battle was over, but the war against the darkness was far from finished. And so, our vigil continued, a silent guard against the unseen forces that lurk in the shadows of our world. The Demiurge was still out there, somewhere, waiting. But we were ready, armed with knowledge and united in our purpose. The story of our town, of Sarah and me, might seem like a mere whisper in the vastness of the universe. But in that whisper lies a truth that in the fight against darkness, the light of hope and courage can never be extinguished.